Hey, friend, and welcome back to the Lawyer Millionaire podcast. I'm glad you're here with me today. I'm Darren Wurz, and here's what I see most law firm owners do when they're trying to decide whether to hire. Either A, they wait until they're completely buried, drowning in work, falling behind on matters, and then they hire out of desperation. Or option two, they have a really strong month, they feel optimistic, the firm feels like it's hit a new revenue plateau, and they post the job listing immediately. Either approach can lead to disaster. Because the question isn't, do I feel ready to hire? The question is, are we scientifically, mathematically, financially ready to hire? And that is a different question. So today, we're going to walk through some practical tests, 3 tests actually, that let you help you answer that question with data and science rather than gut feel. So, first of all, why does this matter so much? And you already know why it matters. You're probably dealing with this question right now yourself, but let's underscore it just a little bit here. If your firm is somewhere between about $1 million and $5 million in revenue, you're walking through a zone that Greg Crabtree in simple numbers calls the black hole. The black hole is a stretch of business where you're forced to add staff and infrastructure. You need to add staff and infrastructure, but you can't really afford to just yet, at least not really. You don't have a lot of margin. Your workload is growing faster than your margin. You are the bottleneck, and you know something has to change, but you also know that hiring costs money. Woo! Well, getting a hire right, by the way, will be great because it will pay you back many, many, many times over. You buy back your time, you grow your capacity, and the new person strengthens your profitability. But get a hire wrong, and you've just added overhead, stress, complexity at just the moment when you can't really afford any of those things. That's the problem with being in the black hole. Now, I'm not trying to raise your blood pressure, so if your pulse is quickening, I'm sorry. I'm actually trying to lower it because I think that actually most of the anxiety that comes around hiring comes from doing it in the dark. When you can see what you're doing, when you have a clear test, a test that gives you a clear answer, it stops being a leap of faith and it becomes a decision you can make with confidence. And that's what we want. So today we're going to walk through some different tests. These tests come from 2 books. The first is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, and the second is Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree. Both of these are books that we're reading this year inside the Lawyer Millionaire community. We read Profit First last quarter, and this quarter we're reading Simple Numbers, taking the profit and cash flow frameworks to the next level. By the way, our theme this year is profit on purpose. And so everything we're talking about is all about cash flow and profitability. And this quarter, our kind of sub-theme is profit science. And by the way, if you're not part of our community, you're really missing out. You can join us at community.lawyermillionaire.com. Okay, let's think through it together. First, let's kind of rephrase this question. Most times as business owners, the question we're asking is, do I need help? Well, of course, you always need help. There's almost always more work than any one person can do, especially if your business is growing. So, do I need help doesn't really help you. See what I did there? Well, the better question, the one that actually tells you something, is this. Can my firm financially support what that help costs? And if not, do I have a runway to get there? These are big questions. And we're going to break it down into 2 parts. The first part is about cash flow. Do I have the money coming in reliably to cover this new fixed cost? If you do, that's great. You're in a great spot. The second is about efficiency and profitability. We're going to break that down into 2 parts. If I add this person, is my firm going to make more money? That's a really important question. Or am I just going to dilute the returns I'm already getting? Okay, so we're going to use we're going to use profit first for the first part, and we're going to use simple numbers for the second part. And you should be able to pass all 3 of these tests before you post that listing. Now, Before we get to either framework, quickly, there's something that has to be in place first. And if this part isn't handled, neither test is going to give you the real answer. And here it is. Drum roll, please. You have to be paying yourself a market-based wage. Ow! I know, I said it. Greg Crabtree makes this his very first chapter in Simple Numbers for a reason. If you're not paying yourself what your role is actually worth, your net income number is lying to you. Liar! Every ratio sitting on top of it is lying to you too. You may think you have 12% profit, but really you're subsidizing the firm with your own unpaid labor and sweat equity. The minute you hire someone to actually take some of that labor off your plate, the true cost becomes visible, and the firm can't actually support it. A firm owner that's taking maybe $30,000 or $40,000 home a year in W-2 wages and calling the rest of what they take out distributions, the profit number looks great on paper, but then they hire an associate, an operations manager, or a paralegal, and suddenly the numbers are getting tight. And they can't understand why. Because on paper they had plenty of margin, but that margin wasn't real. It was their own compensation in hiding. So, the first thing to do before any test, before any listing, is to make sure you are paying yourself a market-based wage. Really important. Here's the exercise I want you to think through real quickly. God forbid you were hit by a bus and tomorrow your family decided to keep the firm going in your absence. Let's just pretend that they could, even though they're not lawyers and they couldn't run the business, but let's just pretend. Okay. Well, what would they have to pay someone to do your job? Not one person, but probably two or three, because you're probably doing 2 or 3 jobs and working a lot of hours. You might be the managing attorney, the rainmaker, and the operations person all at once. So what you should do is price each of those roles at what the market actually pays for them, and then blend it based on how your time is split. Now, here's the part that trips people up. What if you work through the exercise and then you realize, oh gosh, I can't afford to pay myself a market-based wage? Well, ding, 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 we have some important information. It doesn't mean you're in a bad spot necessarily. It means 2 things. 1, start tracking what you're giving up. This is called sweat equity, and it's real. It's the value you're building by working for less than you're worth. And you don't want to keep doing that forever. So number 2, make a plan and a timeline for when the wages will move up to market. Not someday, not when I feel like it. A specific plan in writing. This is why people burn out. They continue working for less than market for a long time. Okay, well, now we've got that out of the way. Let's move into our frameworks. Framework number 1. The Profit First New Hire Account. This comes from Mike Michalowicz's Profit First, and I love Profit First. If you're not familiar with Profit First, we did a whole series on Profit First. Go back and listen to it. We did 6 episodes on Profit First. Okay, so here's the exercise. Pick the role you've been thinking about filling. Okay, think about it. Got it? Is it in your head? Associate attorney, paralegal, whatever it is. Figure out what that base salary should be. Not necessarily fully loaded, but what's the base salary? Okay. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to open up a dedicated bank account. Call it the new hire account and pretend that's your new hire. And every month or every 2 weeks or whatever your payroll schedule is, you're going to transfer into that account what you would pay that new hire. Don't touch the money. Don't redirect it. Don't dip into it. Leave it alone. Do that for a few months and see what it feels like. What's going to happen is you're going to learn some things. There's a few possible outcomes. Number 1, maybe you fund it every year and there's no stress. Other accounts stay healthy. You keep paying yourself. Nothing has to get deferred or changed. You've got a green light. Your cash flow is telling you you're ready. Or, number 2, you can fund it, but it's a little bit tighter than you'd like. You have to skip something. You have to move some money around. You feel anxious about payroll. You've got a yellow light. The firm could probably absorb the hire, but a slow month might be tough. Or 3, you can't fund it at all. Some months, yes, some months, no, or it's not really there. It's a red light. this is telling you something too. It's telling you you're not ready yet. And that can be a sigh of relief to know you're not ready. You've got some work to do. Okay. So that's the new hire account. And that can be a really helpful way to just test it out and make sure you have the cash flow. And if you're using Profit First already, this is simple because you have your sub accounts, everything's set up at Relay Bank like it should be. With the click of a button, you can set up your new hire account. Okay, now let's get to framework number 2. The labor efficiency ratio. Ooh, this sounds fun. This comes from Greg Crabtree's Simple Numbers book, and it answers a different question for us. The Profit First test is going to tell us whether or not we have the cash flow in real time. The labor efficiency ratio is more scientific, and it's going to tell us whether that new hire, we can really take it on, and whether or not it's really going to make us more profitable, or it's just going to exacerbate a problem that we already have. The formula is really simple, so if you're afraid of math, don't worry. It is this: gross profit divided by total labor cost equals your labor efficiency ratio. Okay, now the benchmark for a healthy, scalable business is 2.0 or higher. Okay, now what does that mean? You're talking numbers, Darren. Slow it down. All right. So for every dollar you're spending on labor, you should be generating $2 of gross profit. Okay, now we'll get into what all that means. Gross profit, just think of gross profit as almost the same as gross revenue. Okay, so you should be getting twice as much revenue for every labor dollar. So if you're spending if you're spending $500,000 on labor, you should be doing $1 million at least in revenue. Okay. Now, if you're at that 2.0 mark or higher, you've got a green light for hiring. That means your existing team is generating strong returns or ROI on your labor investment. Adding capacity is likely to accelerate profitability as long as the new person gets leveraged properly. However, if your labor efficiency ratio is less than 2, if you're getting less than $2 for every dollar of total labor cost, something is not right, and we need to find out what the underlying issue is and fix it, because otherwise, if you add new people, new staff, you're just going to be magnifying an issue that exists already and creating a bigger problem. Some questions you may ask yourself would be, are you underpriced? There might be a pricing problem. Are there underperforming people on your team? Is attorney time going to low value work? Those are things that you can fix, and it's much cheaper to fix them now than after you add new headcount. Now, you really do want to be able to pass both tests, because a firm with strong cash flow but poor labor efficiency will hire into a system that dilutes returns. A firm with great efficiency but inconsistent cash flow will struggle to sustain the payroll. So both signals are very, very helpful. Now, there's a third number that I want us to look at. And by the way, on that labor efficiency ratio, gross profit, okay, is one part, and total labor cost is the other part. And we really want total labor cost, okay? Not just the amount we're sending, but we want to know, benefits and everything that's included. All right. Now, there's a third number you should look at alongside labor efficiency ratio, and it really is the gold number. It's pre-tax profit. And after all, that is what we're all about and what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so here are some benchmarks for you. 5% or less of pre-tax profit means that your business is on life support. Any disruption will be tough. 10% means you have a good business. 15% or more means you have a great business. And most healthy businesses will live between 10 and 15%. Now, I know there's a lot of variability out there, but if you're looking for some numbers to gauge where you are, those are some good numbers to use. Now, the profitability hiring is a cycle, and the cycle goes something like this. And you can use these profit benchmarks to help you determine where in the hiring cycle you are. If you are at 10%, You have a good business, but you're not quite ready to hire just yet. If you're at 15% pre-tax profit, you're ready to hire. That's another clue. Okay, so labor efficiency ratio at 2, pre-tax profit at 15. You're ready. That's your hiring readiness zone. You have a great business. You have enough margin to absorb the cost of expansion. When you hire, however, your profit is naturally going to drop, usually back down towards 10%, until you can ramp the business up. And you will ramp the business up. Okay? The new person will ramp up, their productivity will grow, revenue will grow, margin will recover, and you'll climb back towards that 15% ideally. And when you get there, you're ready to consider your next hire. Look at that. So 15% isn't necessarily a spot you stay at all the time, but it's a good signal to tell you that you've earned the right to spend some of your margin on growth. If you're at 10% pre-tax profit or below, it's dangerous to hire because you're going to push back down towards 5, and 5 means you're on life support. So the discipline is starting from the right place and then rebuilding. Now, let's add some caveats and some grace in here, because you may be thinking about this. You may think, oh, I'm nowhere near hiring. And maybe, and sometimes you do have to hire even though you really can't really quite afford it just yet. So I don't want you to hear this as necessarily a rigid pass-fail test, but these are good tests to help you know if you're really ready. And if you can pass all these tests, you are really ready. Okay. So I see a lot of law firm owners who are really, really struggling with the hiring question. Some of my own clients. And I can tell from their numbers, you are so far beyond ready, it's not even funny. Like, you should have been hiring yesterday. You need to hire now. And yet they're still worried. And so maybe that's you. Maybe, you're a bit more conservative of a business owner. And so you really have been squirreling away money. You're really scared to make that hire. If you do these tests and you've got a green light, go for it. You're in a really, really good spot. You can afford to hire, and use that as your scientific proof that you're ready to hire. Let that give you confidence, because that's going to really help you. Okay. So I hope that helps some of you out there. Okay. However, if you are not quite there just yet, don't panic. Maybe your labor efficiency ratio isn't quite at 2, maybe you're not quite at 15%. Well, when you need to do some forecasting and build a forecast of how the numbers are going to get back on track and how long it's going to take even after you hire. 2 questions you should answer before you hire. 1, how am I going to get back towards or get to a 2.0 or higher labor efficiency ratio? What is the person that I'm hiring, what is their contribution going to look like? And through what mechanism does the profit of the firm grow? Is more attorney time going to be freed up for higher value work? Are more matters going to be closed per quarter? Will we have better utilization across the team? Second question is, how long is it going to take? 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Put a number on it and build a month-by-month picture of what that ratio is going to look like between here and there, and how long it's going to take us to get to where we need to go. If you can answer those 2 questions with specifics, you have earned the grace to dip below the benchmarks, okay? But you need to be able to answer them. Okay, same thing with pre-tax profit. If you're gonna drop down towards 10%, that's expected as long as you start at 15. What's your forecast for getting back? When does it happen? Through what? Write it down. Understand your runway. Now let's go a little bit deeper. There's a couple things I want to touch on to help you master hiring and make a financially successful hire. First, the capital safety net. Another financial metric. Before you hire, you need reserves. Not just enough to cover 1 month of their salary, but enough to carry the firm through any rough period that it might have. And the standard for capital safety net is at least 2 months of operating cash. Plus, we don't stop there, 2 months of operating cash plus 0 owed on the line of credit and all of your taxes set aside. If you're there, you have the capital safety net that you need. And maybe you want to have a little bit extra just in case, but you need at least that. And most law firms are nowhere near that, let alone most businesses. But it's really, really critical and really valuable to have your core capital safety requirement met. Second, the hiring discipline itself. Hire slowly, fire quickly. The cost of hiring the wrong person is enormous, especially when you're already tight and you're in that black hole zone of business growth. Replacement is one of the most expensive things a growing firm can do. Use personality profiles. Use a recruiter. Don't be afraid to spend on the hiring process and bring in qualified people. Consider bringing people on as consultants first to really test out the work that they do. And if you're hiring younger, less experienced people, which by the way can be great because you get to shape and mold their education, invest in their training deliberately. And third, what not to outsource too early. The two hardest functions to outsource in a growing business are CEO and sales. You are probably wearing both of those hats, and you should continue wearing both of those hats for a long time. The managing attorney function and the rainmaking function are the two things that carry the most institutional knowledge and the most client trust. Hire around those first. Hire everything else first. But don't try to hand off the CEO seat or sales seat too early. You should fill those until you absolutely can't. All right, well, let me give you a clear sequence of steps you can run through in the hiring process. 1, if you haven't set your market-based wage, start there. 2, identify the specific role that you've been thinking about. Determine the base monthly salary in your market. 3, open a dedicated bank account, call it your new hire account, and set up an automatic transfer for that new hire. 4, pull your last 12 months of financials and calculate your labor efficiency ratio, gross profit divided by total labor cost. Now, we didn't touch on what gross profit is, but gross profit is essentially revenue minus cost of goods sold. Well, law firms don't really sell goods, so the only things that may apply would be things like contract attorneys, things that are directly involved in generating revenue that you outsource completely. Okay, but for our purposes, we could just say revenue. Revenue divided by total labor cost. 5, calculate your pre-tax profit percentage. Compare it to the benchmarks. Are you at 10? Are you at 15? Are you at 5? Are you at 0? And last but not least, build your recovery forecast. For the role you're considering, map out month by month, when does the person become productive? When does their contribution start showing up as real profit? How long until our labor efficiency ratio gets back to 2? And when does our pre-tax profit climb back toward 15%? Hiring is a big decision, friend, but most of the anxiety comes from treating it as a leap of faith. Do I believe in the firm enough? Am I growing enough? Am I ready? Those are hard questions to answer because they're emotional and they're subjective. When you replace them with objective mathematical questions, is my cash flow strong enough? Is my labor efficiency sound enough? The answer becomes clear and the anxiety goes away. Here at the Lawyer Millionaire, we help law firm owners grow their businesses and their personal wealth by surrounding you with a team of advisors to help you achieve your dreams and goals. To learn more or schedule your intro call, go to lawyermillionaire.com. And by the way, everything we talked about today is part of what we're building this quarter inside the Lawyer Millionaire community. Our Q2 theme is Profit Science, and we're working through Simple Numbers and Simple Numbers 2.0 by Greg Crabtree together across 3 masterclasses. The link to join the community, and we'll put the links to the books in the show notes. And don't wait, because our next masterclass is coming up soon on April 23rd. we're going to be talking about the 4 numbers that decide your law firm's profit. Okay, and you don't need to finish the books or even really read the books to get a lot out of it. Just come ready to learn. If you're not in the community yet and you'd like to be, the link is waiting for you. And by the way, it's free to join. Well, that's it for today, friend. And remember, if your law firm isn't building you wealth and freedom, what the hell are you doing? Can I get an amen out there? Now, go make it happen, and I'll see you next time.